Just be glad for all you have that's in today.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, episodes 38 and 39, the finale of Golden Wind, or Vento Aureo, whichever you prefer. Sorry for the lighting as well, it's just, I guess, really bright out there today. Not too much I can do about it. But yeah, so we are here with the final two episodes of Vento Aureo. It's been a few weeks since the last one. Basically because I don't know whether it's the channel that was putting them out in Japan or the people behind the show themselves, but someone screwed them over because of all of those constant breaks they were taking and all of the recap episodes that weren't needed. They basically screwed themselves over, and because of that, they went overtime. And they had to, because of other shows starting to premiere, they had to wait a couple weeks for a time slot to be open to air the final two episodes. But they were able to get the time slots, and they aired them both together just yesterday. So, we're finally here. Yeah, I'm really excited to see how this part of JoJo ends. It's been really good. Like, a lot better than I thought it was going to be. It's still not as good as Part 4, and I don't think this finale is going to change that. I really don't. Part 4 is just so amazing and just so well handled. Has such a great villain, such great characters in general, great story, great stands. It's just like, this is not going to beat it. But it is second. It did manage to beat out Stardust Crusaders and become my second. And in a way, that kind of means that it broke the trend, because up to this point, every part had been better than the last. But at this point, it's like, this broke the trend. Instead of being better than Part 4, it's just very slightly not as good. It's second place. But I still enjoyed it. It had a lot more surprises than I thought it was going to be. I honestly didn't expect Narancia to die. I didn't expect Fugo to never come back and just have nothing ever done with him. I really thought he was actually going to have a point to be in this series, but he really wasn't. He was just kind of written out of the series for no real reason. And yeah, I know there's a non-canon spin-off that isn't written by Araki. But again, it's non-canon. It's not actually a legitimate part of this series. It's basically glorified fan fiction. So I don't count that. Basically, Fugo was just there, did pretty much nothing for the group, and then was written out without, again, having done anything. And no one ever just, I guess, knows what happens to him. Unless one of the future parts says something. I don't know. Of course, there's been no news on when the next part will come. I'm thinking probably 2021. I don't think it's going to come out next year. But if it does, I would be like, cool. But I don't think it will. Probably 2021. Either way, I'm very, very excited to see how this ends. And to see how exactly Diavolo is going to be defeated. Because with Gold Experience Requiem, we can obviously tell Giorno is now quite OP in his own way. Even though Giorno doesn't even fully know the extent of Gold Experience Requiem's abilities. It's going to be interesting to see exactly how the final part of this battle goes. Also, I have been told not to skip the opening. And I've also been told there is a post-credits scene. I don't know what could happen in the opening at this point, though. Because the opening is, you know, we've already had the special Diavolo opening. We've had the sound effects opening, which I really didn't need to, I really didn't need to, like, watch. The sound effects opening, meh. The Diavolo opening, I definitely wanted to see that, but I don't know what else they could possibly do. Like, they could do more, definitely. David Productions could very easily do more. I just don't know what it will be. As for the post-credit scene, yeah, I'm glad I know about that because I would not have watched it otherwise. Although, to be fair, with the final episode, I might have checked it out just because it's the final episode. Because a lot of final episodes will have some extra stuff at the very end, especially for JoJo, just to kind of either fully wrap things up or even give some kind of a hint as to the next part. Such as part 2 doing so with Stardust Crusaders by showing old Joseph. I'm really excited to see, though, like I said, what we've got in store and exactly how this is going to end. Because we've had a lot more deaths in this part than I thought we would. I mean, not just the bad guys either. I mean, good guys too. And I just really am unsure. The only thing I can see at this point is that once Diavolo is defeated and presumably killed, Giorno is probably going to take over Passion. I mean, that just makes sense. Especially since Bruno's dead. But I don't know. I know that was kind of the goal from the outset, but I don't see Giorno as the leader of Passion. I just don't. Because again, I've said it before and I'm saying it again here, Giorno isn't that great of a character, especially as a JoJo. He's very, very minorly developed. He has very little actual character to him. And in all honesty, he hasn't done a lot to really stand out in this series. I mean, most of his big moments were when he stole other people's victories, when other people were fighting an enemy and he just comes in and steals their victories from them. I mean, the beginning of the series definitely had him as a better focus, but then it's like it started focusing on everyone else. And honestly, like I've said before, Bruno felt like much more of a main character than him. Bruno felt like the JoJo in just how the characters were written, how the story was written, how it was all presented and executed. Bruno felt like much more of the main character to this than Giorno did pretty much since the first couple episodes. Honestly, up until Giorno joined Passion, he was definitely the focus, he was the main character, and they did good at that. But after Giorno actually joined Bruno's gang, all of that changed. And he became very minor, honestly. And it didn't happen just at once either. It was like kind of like slow decline. Because at first, like for example, when they're on the boats and everything, and when they go onto the island, yeah, in all of that, Giorno still feels much like a main character, but it's lesser so than before he joined Passion and Bruno's gang specifically. But then after that, it just keeps going down and down and down, and eventually it's just like, who cares about Giorno anymore? All the other characters are vastly more interesting, have done more, except for Fugo, and just are written as better characters and more as main characters than him. Honestly, Giorno about has the relevance of, I'd say, Iggy from Stardust Crusaders. Yeah, he has a couple good moments, and in the end, he's definitely a big focus, well, in Iggy's case, before his death. But it's only really at the very beginning and very end of the series that he actually has any big relevance and any major focus. Outside of that, he's just meh. And that's kind of like Iggy. Outside of his, the very first time he shows up and the very end of his storyline and all, Iggy's just kind of there, and you don't even care. So it's kind of like that comparison to me. Well, Bruno, again, feels more like Jotaro, Josuke, Joseph, Jonathan even. Bruno feels like the main character. Like they're right. It almost feels like he's written to be the main character. But that they changed but Araki changed his mind at the last moment and decided to make Giorno. But still, it's like, just had to kind of insert him in, and it just came across as unnatural. And I know I might be in the minority on this opinion and on this viewpoint, but that's just how I see it. I can't see it any other way. Giorno is just so unimpressive. He is my least favorite JoJo by far. By far. Like, it's not even a comparison. Uh, all of the other JoJo's are vastly more interesting, have vastly more character, and are just better written than him in every aspect. And they all feel like main characters, except for him. And again, that's not to necessarily say I hate Giorno. I don't. And I like his stand. But he just doesn't impress. And he doesn't stand out, again, as a main character. That's all I'm trying to say with this. That doesn't mean I hate him. There's honestly very few characters in JoJo that I actually outright hate in terms of their writing and character and all of that. Again, not including characters you're supposed to hate, like the bad guys. But yeah, I'm talking like characters. There's very few characters that I actually hate as characters. So yeah. Either way, like I said, I'm just excited to get into this, so we're just going to do so. When the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode. Well, episodes. That being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. Okay, and we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. I didn't like this finale. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's a couple things from it that I did enjoy, such as the way Diavolo was defeated, and the fact that Giorno did become the leader of Passion in the end. As well as the fact that the post-credits scene tied into the opening. I thought that was really cool. But I feel like for the wait we had, especially, the fact that Diavolo, that entire thing was finished so quickly in the first of these 2 episodes was extremely disappointing. And it just feels like the entire Rolling Stone part of this 2-parter, which was honestly the majority of this 2-parter and the focus of the finale of this part of JoJo. The fact that it was the finale in the first place is extremely disappointing. The fact that it even exists is really confusing. Why? What is the point of it? It doesn't add anything to the story. In fact, it actually makes things a little less interesting. The entire thing with Rolling Stone's ability and stuff, having predicted the deaths of Bruno, Abacchio, Narancia, and oh, my mind is blanking. You know, predicting all the deaths. It's like if these events had played earlier on in the season, like early on in the season, or again, since it happened technically before Bruno met Giorno, if we had seen this as a flashback again, just earlier on in the season, like early on, like period, then that would have been fine, and having it come back at the end would have been cool. But the fact is, it came out of nowhere and felt like just some random little bit was being added to the end just because. Again, it didn't add anything to the story. And honestly, in the current day, when The Rock returned, when Rolling Stone returned, it didn't do anything. It just was there. And then all of a sudden, Trish is gone, and it's like, wait, what's happening? Where's Trish? And then she's just in the turtle. It's just a way to show that Polnareff's spirit is still with the turtle. And it's like, what? It just felt so disjointed. Like, everything up to this point was great. And again, the defeat of Diavolo was great. But I feel that if this was supposed to be like an epilogue story, even though it's technically a flashback to events predating the actual events of the series, or well, technically after Giorno killed, well, Leaky Eye Luca technically killed himself. After that event, and it's technically takes place like in the first episode of the series, within that time frame. And before Bruno and Giorno meet. But even so, it's just like, if they wanted this to be shown in the epilogue or something like this, then have it actually be the epilogue after everything, which would have made more sense if, like, let's say Diavolo was finished and we saw like the death stuff in the last episode, and then in episodes 38 and 39, it was just this. Like, just a separate story, just completely not even really connected to the current events. That would have been okay. It still would have been weird and random and just kind of thrown on with no real sense of, like, with no real sense of anything, really, of connection to the current story. But other than the deaths. But still, like I said, it just felt completely random. Like, it was just completely thrown in there for the sake of being thrown in there. And honestly, it wasn't that entertaining. Like, I was excited when I, like, called that the stand would be called Rolling Stones. That's fantastic. But other than that, like, the story, the florist and his daughter, the boyfriend who was a stand user who couldn't control a stand, it was just completely self-controlled. And everything, and then the entire thing with it predicting that I didn't care. I didn't care about that story at all. It's like the entire time I'm watching, it's like, can we get back to the main story? Is that a thing we can do? Because it wasn't interesting. Again, if this had taken place early on in the series, early on in part 5, and then maybe like throughout the series, if you looked in the background or stuff, you saw The Rock, then that would have been cool. And it would have added something by basically telling you that they were going to die from the beginning. And they could have even done it to where it's like, yeah, Rolling Stones took a new shape, and maybe the boyfriend had seen that there were now 3 faces or whatnot in Rolling Stones instead of just Bruno's. But we, as the viewers, didn't actually see which 3 faces those were, but we're still told it's 3 people from Bruno's team. That would have been a fantastic way to do it. Again, if that was all from earlier on in the series. The fact is it wasn't. The fact is it was placed at the very end. And the only thing we got after it was, again, the entire thing with Polnareff still being around, living as a spirit within Coco Jumbo. And that's it. We didn't see them, outside of Giorno and Polnareff, finding out about Bruno's death. And we didn't see anything after that, except, again, just a really just cutaway scene in the after credits that just shows that, yeah, Giorno did become the leader of Passion, which is not surprising. It's like everything after this scene was just like confirmation of a couple things, but not actually giving us any real content. The real content outside of the Rolling Stones story ended with Diavolo's eternal cycle of deaths, which again is a fantastic way to end it. I just wish that they would have either had that in the last episode or just focused entirely on that and just not did the Rolling Stones thing at all. As it is, the Rolling Stones part of the story, completely unnecessary, completely uninteresting, and felt like a waste of time. And honestly, it brought down this finale massively. You could cut it out completely and it'd make no difference. It doesn't, like I said, it adds nothing to the series. And it just, it felt like it was filler, just added in to fill a time quota. It felt like it was just completely random ass filler to get those 39 episodes. Why not just have it be 38 episodes and have it end with Diavolo's defeat and maybe a little epilogue about where the characters are now? That's one thing we don't know. We have no idea what happened to Trish. She wasn't in that last scene, I don't think. I'll check real quick again. That like after credits scene, she wasn't there. It was just Mista and Giorno. Yeah, no, she's not. Oh, well, and Polnareff inside Coco Jumbo. But yeah, the last scene, the after credit scene, shows Mista standing there at the window, Coco Jumbo, Polnareff on the bookshelf or dresser or desk or whatever it is right next to him. And then you see Giorno and a bunch of just nameless, faceless, random people there with him. And that's literally it. That is literally it. No Trish, no explanation of at all what happened to her afterwards. And no, like, proper resolution. Hell, you could have had something filling all of that. Maybe, hell, even if you had like all of that time that was spent on the Rolling Stone stuff, replaced with like even just recap of Bruno and Giorno's like basically adventure together and their interactions and stuff, how they met and everything, how they joined together. That would have been better because that would have actually had massive relevance. That would have actually been fine. But instead they decided to insert this Rolling Stones plotline that was completely pointless and felt like it just dragged everything down. And the thing is, there's not, take that away and there's almost nothing to talk about with this finale. We waited like what, 3 weeks for this? Maybe 4? 3-4 weeks for this? And we get that? Like, that is so freaking disappointing. Like here, I'm gonna bring up the episode 38 again. I want to see exactly how much time was actually given to the actual main plot in episode 38 before it diverged. Okay, so about half of the first episode, episode 38, actually was, about half of it was the, focus. 11 and a half minutes. The rest of it leading up to the full 23 and a half minutes, approximately, it's a little bit more than that, but yeah, was the filler stuff, basically, the Rolling Stones story. And I just feel like there were a lot better ways to pad out this finale. There would have been so many better ways. Because the little ending bits in episode 39 could have been plugged into this episode, and again, then just have a recap, and it would have been 38 episodes. And that would have been fine. It didn't have to be 39. Or heck, do all of that in this episode, then have episode 39 be the Rolling Stones story, but not have it connect as much or something. Or, again, just have had the Rolling Stones stuff earlier in the season where it would have made sense and actually worked. I'm sorry, I'm just really irritated about that. Because it just felt like I was waiting for this for so long. I was really excited when I remembered that it came out yesterday. And it was just a massive letdown. And while the full series as a whole has other problems, like, again, Fugo being a massive letdown, Giorno being a massive letdown for a main JoJo character. The series as a whole was still good. Part 5 was still good. Like I said, it's my second favorite part of JoJo. But it was a lot closer before these two episodes. Like I said, these brought it down a bit, and it just really disappoints me. Because there was so much that I feel could have been done to make this such a grand finale. Every finale before this was in JoJo, of every part, was leagues better. It's not even close. Every part's finale from parts 1 through 4 were leagues better. I don't understand how they could have dropped the ball this much. I assume that this was in the manga. I don't know for sure, and you guys are going to have to tell me. But if this was in the manga and done in this way to where this just happened like this at this point, then that's on Araki. If in the manga it happened much earlier, then this is on David Productions. But no matter who's at fault here, the thing is, I am an anime only. And I have to view, I'm not going to view it as in completely like, okay, this is just an anime. I'm going to view it only as the anime. Because the thing is, again, if the manga was like this and this is just a valid, like, animation of the manga's scenes and everything, then that means that Araki, the creator of the series and all, is the one to blame for this, is the one who wrote this finale so poorly. And just put in some random-ass story that has no business being here. And that is a big flaw with the writing of the series, of the part, as a whole. But as an anime only, just viewing it from an anime only perspective, it just, no matter whether it was like this in the manga or not, even if it wasn't, it's still really bad here. And I might be, this might be a case of, you know, Connie has the weird opinion again. I might be kind of alone on this. You guys may not agree with me. You guys might like the Rolling Stones story. I don't know. But this is my viewpoint, from my perspective watching it. This felt completely unnecessary, had no relevance to anything outside of, again, the deaths, and just wasn't needed. It felt like a complete waste of time. And I just really was not a fan. And it just took away from a lot more that could have been added into the story. Like, again, explaining what happened to Trish. Showing that Trish and Mista finding out that Bruno is dead. Especially Trish, who did actually seem to care greatly about Bruno. I am just really irritated by how this ended. I am sorry. For such a good series that I was enjoying so much, especially enjoying reacting to so much, I am just really brought down and disappointed by this. But tell me in the comments below what your thoughts on the finale, episodes 38 and 39 of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Vento Aureo, or Golden Wind if you prefer, what your thoughts are. And thank you so much for tuning in. For now, I'm Connie and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.
And though you've come through many obstacles,